For all its senselessness, the loss of Liam has illuminated for me just how tragedy can and inevitably must transform us. I want to speak a little bit today about the way Liam's transformed me, and I hope that what I have to say will also resonate for you. I think most of us will have been surprised by just how many people Liam touched because he worked with in so many different domains with so many different kinds of people. College students, farmers, activists, community leaders, policymakers, business leaders, sociologists, scientists. Before his death, very few of us were privileged to know all of Liam's friends because Liam's friends were everywhere in groups that don't always communicate or have a high level of awareness of each other. This alone suggests something important about Liam's character, I think. Not simply that he was a tireless worker for the things he believed in, not just that he was likable or charismatic, he was certainly all of those things, but it's also a testament to his openness to other people and his ability and willingness to listen and learn from everyone he knew. In losing Liam, we've lost someone with a rare kind of intelligence, born of curiosity, nurtured by his generousness of spirit and his creativity. Liam's was a kind of intelligence that wasn't constrained by barriers that frame the thinking of so many of us: theory and practice, idealism and realism, community and individuality, commerce and cooperation. Liam intuitively understood that these kinds of divisions only hide far more complicated truths from us, just as superficial differences between people conceal the way our lives are all inextricably intertwined, and the way we're ultimately dependent on one another, on the earth, and on all living things. It was an intelligence that I first encountered in philosophy club meetings at Georgia Tech, where I'm a graduate student, and through mutual friends in the undergraduate program in science, technology, and culture. I was fortunate to be able to continue conversations begun there during the course of a friendship that developed over the last few years. What impressed me most about Liam was that his idealism wasn't based on any kind of refusal to acknowledge just how big the challenges that face our society are, nor did the scale of those challenges ever diminish his enthusiasm or his commitment to solving them. And his pragmatism never prevented him from exploring new and difficult ideas or seeing the beauty all around him. This kind of resilience, sensitivity, and suppleness of mind is something that I think reflected his closeness to and awareness of the cycles of life and land. And in fact, it's something that in philosophy and literature we find often associated with farmers. From Cato to Horace to Scottish and English poets of the land like Robert Burns and John Clare, to American thinkers like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. It's only too appropriate that Liam recently received his American citizenship because the genius of the farmer and the outdoorsman that was so much a part of his character has so often been identified with the American genius. In the early days of the American Republic, J. Hector St. John Crevecoeur wrote this of the American turn of mind in his Letters from an American Farmer. Quote, "The American is a new man who acts upon new principles. He must therefore entertain new ideas and form new opinions. Here individuals of all nations are melted into a new race of men whose labors and posterity will one day cause great changes in the world. An immigrant, when he first arrives, no sooner breathes our air than he forms new schemes and embarks in designs he never would have thought of in his own country. He begins to feel the effects of a sort of resurrection. Hitherto he had not lived. He now feels himself a man. Judge what an alteration there must arise in the mind and thoughts of this man. His heart involuntarily swells and glows. This first swell inspires him with those new thoughts which constitute an American." Liam's own thinking extended beyond the thinking of the farmer, however, because his natural curiosity and interest in the natural world also led to an interest in science. And here's where I think Liam had and has particular lessons to teach us. Farmers and scientists have always had an uneasy relationship. We might take as an example the 20th century American author, farmer, and activist Wendell Berry's work, as he's written numerous essays attacking the scientific way of thinking, and he was a lifelong opponent of agribusiness, which is arguably the greatest expression so far of the application of scientific thought to farming. And undoubtedly, as Berry has argued, the outcomes of agribusiness have been highly destructive to our health, our land, and our ecosystems. But Liam believed that this was not the end of the story of the relationship between science and agriculture. He believed that science could teach us not simply how to grow faster and grow more, but to grow in a way that sustains and flows with the natural cycles that are the farmer's greatest resource. That science could be used in a way that wasn't at odds with our long-term well-being. Here, I think Liam's openness, his ability to see beyond the categories that determine our habits of thinking, made him a pioneer. Liam, I believe, would have gone on to do great things because he understood the farmer and the scientist both, and that their ways of thinking could be combined in new ways to the benefit of all of us. But in his ability to transcend these kinds of traditional divisions, his greater example is, as I've said, that all of us must begin to see and accept our dependence on one another. Because the foundation of both strong communities and a sustainable planet is this acceptance. It's often said that if we are to make lasting change in the world, we must change ourselves first. But it is the farmer's wisdom that we can only change ourselves by letting the world change us, by letting what's outside in, by listening to each other, no matter what our preconceptions are, no matter how great our differences, and by listening to the earth when so much of our daily routine blocks out its rhythms and its quiet power. These are lessons my friend Liam taught me, and I will never forget him. I'd like to close with a poem by Wendell Berry called "The Man Born into Farming." The grower of trees, the gardener, the man born to farming, whose hands reach into the ground and sprout, to him the soil is a divine drug. He enters into death yearly and comes back rejoicing. He has seen the light lie down in the dung heap and rise again in the corn. His thought passes along the row ends like a mole. What miraculous seed has he swallowed that the unending sentence of his love flows out of his mouth like a vine clinging in the sunlight and like water descending in the dark? Thank you.